Good morning, everyone, on this New Year's Day. And good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Church here in Portland, Oregon. And for those folks joining us online from wherever you are, it's good to be with you on this symbolic new beginning of our lives. And I'm ready for it, and I hope you are too. There are a few announcements this morning. With the new year starting, we're gearing up for some new classes and activities that are coming up soon. You can find all the details in our weekly e-news and on our church website. Next Sunday, Reverend Tom is holding a newcomer class in church campus walking tour, which will start at 12:30. That's next Sunday. This is a really nice chance to meet other newcomers and to have your questions about our church and about Unitarian Universalism answered. So if you are new or new-ish, please do come. Also next Sunday at 12:30, our Community for Earth folks invite everyone to an in-person panel discussion entitled Electrify Your Home to Save Money and Ease the Climate Crisis. You'll learn about the benefits of ending or reducing the use of gas in our homes, excuse me, and I understand that snacks will be served. Then on upcoming Thursday evening, starting January 12th through February 16th, our Advancing Racial Justice Action Group is sponsoring the Zoom class, White Supremacy in Oregon, a History and Current Issues. It takes a look at Oregon's progressive reputation in contrast to our state's history and current realities. You can register for this Zoom class online. And on Saturday, January 28th, our annual Seminary for a Day returns in person and online. This year's presentation theme is Transcendentalism Comes West, with guest presenter, the Reverend John Behrens. John is quite the speaker, and you won't want to miss this. You can go online to register. And a reminder that you can find more details on all of these classes and events in our weekly e-news and also on our church website. And one last item to mention. Thanks to the Alliance Greens and Holiday Goodies and Treasures sales, which were made successful by all of us and by additional funds donated from Alliance members, the Alliance is going to be awarding $8,000 to local community nonprofits serving women and children. They're seeking nominations, yes, good job. They're seeking nominations for recipient organizations and invite anyone to get in touch with an Alliance member if you have a nonprofit that you would like to nominate. After the service today, please join fellow congregants for social hour, which is just down the hall this week in our Buchanan atrium. So you can just use that side door and turn right and walk on down the hall. I think I noticed some special treats that you all brought to share today, so please do join in. And just one note for our online viewers, our virtual social hour is on holiday today. So no virtual social hour, but it will return next week. And now let's take a moment to greet our neighbors. And if you're online, feel free to use your chat option. Eli will light our chalice today.
We are Unitarian Universalists.
We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage and who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who have been gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who are poised for transformation. We begin our story today, this New Year's Day, this miracle of a day. Come, let us worship together. For the ceaseless flow of endless time.
Please remain standing for our responsive reading. New Year's Day, surprise. The 1st of January is another day dawning, the sun rising as the sun always rises, the earth moving in its rhythms. With or without our calendars to name a certain day as the new beginning, separating the old from the new. So it is. Everything is the same, bound into its history as we ourselves are bound. Yet also we stand at a threshold, the new year, something truly new, still unformed, leaving a stunning power in our hands. What shall we do with this great gift of time, this year? Let us begin by remembering that whatever justice, whatever peace and wholeness might bloom in our world this year, we are the hearts and minds, the hands and feet, the embodiment of all the best visions of our people. The new year can be new ground for the seeds of our dreams. Let us take the step forward together onto new ground, planting our dreams well, faithfully, and in joy. Please join in singing our doxology, Spirit of Life.
We're now going to watch an excerpt of a short video. This is from an interview with Maurice Sendak, author of Where the Wild Things Are, with NPR's Terry Gross. It's just a selection of it. The full video was a little bit too long, but I hope when you have a chance you'll listen to the full interview. It's really spectacular. So this is an interview with Maurice Sendak.
I think having friends who die, getting older, getting closer toward the end of life tests people's faith, and it also tests people's atheism. It sounds like your atheism is staying strong.
Is what?
Staying strong.
Yes. I'm not unhappy about becoming old. I'm not unhappy about what must be. It makes me cry only when I see my friends go before me and life is emptied. I don't believe in an afterlife, but I still fully expect to see my brother again. And it's like a dream life. I am reading a biography of Samuel Poore, which was written by a woman in England. I can't remember her name. And it's sort of how I feel now when he was just beginning to gain his strength as a creative man and beginning to see nature. But he believed in God, you see, and he believed in heaven, and he believed in hell. Goodness gracious, that must have made life much easier. It's harder for us non-believers, but you know, there's something I'm finding out as I'm aging, that I am in love with the world. And I look right now as we speak together out my window in my studio, and I see my trees, my beautiful, beautiful maples that are hundreds of years old. They're beautiful. And you see, I can see how beautiful they are. I can take time to see how beautiful they are. It is a blessing to get old. It is a blessing to find the time to do the things, to read the books, to listen to the music. You know, I don't think I'm rationalizing anything. I really don't, since this is all inevitable and I have no control over it. I have nothing but praise now, really, for my...
Our morning plate offering will go to our church's Congregant Care Fund today for our members and friends. This fund helps congregants who are facing critical needs like the loss of housing, utility shut-off, or other unexpected necessary needs. This is one of the ways that we look out for one another and care for each other during emergencies. If you have an urgent need, please be in touch with one of our ministers. That's what this fund is for. Today, you can give online by using the QR code or web link in, I hope you have a yellow card near you, but if not, you'll see it on the screen in just a moment. You can also use the Boxcast donate button if you're watching online, or if you're here in person, you can also give your donation to an usher after the service. Thank you so much for your generosity that makes this care fund possible. Thank you. Each week, we make space in our service to name the joys and concerns of our community life. We're a caring community, and pastoral support happens through our ministers and our lay ministers who hold the prayers of the congregation throughout the week. When we're worshiping next door in the sanctuary, you can light a candle and write down your prayer intention in person, but you can always email a prayer intention to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. And if you'd like a joy or concern mentioned here in a Sunday service and also in our weekly e-news, please email that to parishconcerns@firstunitarianportland.org. In these trying times, we continue grieving the lives lost to war, to disastrous winter storms, and to a world which seems to have gone off the rails. We also recognize that the holidays just ending bring so many different emotions. Our hearts are full of it all. And amidst of all of that, today we have a joy to share. Members Kim Lamb and Susan Bishop were married on solstice morning, December 21st. Kim and Susan met 16 years ago at a First Unitarian Pride meeting and have been partners for over 15 years. We wish them so much, We wish them so much continued happiness in their married life together. Will you pray with me now? Dear Spirit of Janus, you ancient God of endings and beginnings, of gateways and transitions, be with us as we pass through this doorway into another year. Last year's chapter is concluded, yes, but it quite possibly ended with a cliffhanger with an unknown next paragraph. Might be good, might not. But whatever awaits us, Spirit, let us stand at the ready, hearts open, eager to live forward. Looking back has its place. It's fair to think of what we might have done better, how we might have loved more fully, acted with greater care, but only to the extent that it helps us shape what's yet to come. We're grateful for this new year's chance to do it once again, letting go of what needs to be released, embracing change, since everything is changing all the time anyway. As Werner Erhard said so many years ago, ride the horse in the direction it's going. So we look back, but mostly we look ahead. And that's what New Year's Day is all about. So thank you, Spirit, and amen. Let's take a few moments to be together in silence. Please remain seated as we sing together, Spirit of Truth, of Life, of Power.
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's one jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood. And at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
I'm sure when you read the intro to this week's sermon title, you were thinking, what in the world is going on with this intern? And are they sane? And while it's true, you know, my sanity may be dubious, that's yet to be determined. I found both of those videos to be very powerful, and they are connected. So I would like to share some perspectives on that with you today. Thank you for being here. So when I was a child, one of my favorite books was, unsurprisingly, Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. It was the beginning of a love affair with books and ideas that pushed the boundaries of what common culture might find acceptable. Maurice Sendak was one of a group of slightly seditious children's book authors in the 1960s, along with other famous names like Dr. Seuss, who weren't afraid to take on political and social issues in their books. As an example, Where the Wild Things Are was banned due to Max's so-called wild behavior, and the Ladies' Home Journal stated that the book could be psychologically damaging and traumatizing to young children. The book was banned largely in the South, which as a Southerner hurts my heart. Later on, my love of literary rebels came William S. Burroughs, Jean Genet, Emma Goldman, Bell Hooks, Angela Davis, Allen Ginsberg. But it all began, I think, with the story of a misbehaving boy named Max. Dressed as a wolf in the opening scenes of the book, we find him causing all sorts of mischief in the house. He's jumping off furniture, he's growling at passerby, and he's even seen in one scene chasing after the family dog with a fork. His mother called him a wild thing, And young Max replied, "I'm going to eat you up." Needless to say, this is not a very nice thing to say to your mother, and so young Max is sent to bed without his supper. While in his room, the space is magically transformed into a forest. And as we all know, Max crosses the sea in a little boat to the land of the real wild things. Real wild things with fur and claws and feathers and beaks and teeth and all manner of wild appearances. After growling and sniffing and proving himself, Max wins his place as king of the wild things. He shouts, "Let the wild rumpus start." And Max and the wild things howl at the moon, they dance, they swing from the trees, they make a huge ruckus in the jungle. But eventually, the time comes when Max has to go, and a memorable line from the book goes, from the wild things, "Please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." Nonetheless, Max ventures back into his boat across the sea into his forest/room and finds his supper waiting for him, and it was still hot. I connect pretty deeply with this story still as an adult, and Max was a very lucky boy. By comparison, when I was done with my wild rumpus, which is likely an improper comparison, but I'm going to go with it anyway, I did not have a warm supper waiting for me. I had a cold jail cell. And yet, it doesn't matter what we've done, where we've been, we can always choose a new moment to start again. We can pick a day, any day really, to be the one to live with intention, with love, with forgiveness, witness, justice, hope, wonder, these things our souls most call out for. I'd like to share with you one of the most profound meditative experiences I've ever had in my life. Maurice Sendak in his video talked about being in love with the maple trees, being able to appreciate the beauty of the world as it was. And I've had one time in my life when I've had an experience where I felt immersed in the world, and it came in a surprising place. When you first get sent to prison, you're sent to a diagnostics and classification unit where basically they determine where you might be placed based on a number of different things that somewhat might make sense and some that probably don't. Behavior while in custody, type of crime, etc. After this time, you get sent to your regular unit. I had just been transferred to my regular unit, and shortly before I received a write-up for talking online. They actually called this disobeying a direct order because we had been told to be quiet previously. This is the only time I got in trouble when I was in prison for talking online. And when I reported for my new job assignment, I assumed I would be transferred to the education department as I was a teacher's aide before. And they usually keep the jobs the same from unit to unit. The man reading the job assignments, stereotypical police academy dropout type, large belly hanging over his too small pants with the big Texas belt buckle that us Texans seem to be so fond of. I'll claim that as a part of my culture. He says to me, "Oh, so you don't like to listen to direct orders, do you? Well, how about we put you on the field squad for a few months and we'll train that right out of you." Y'all, I've never had a problem listening or following directions, but this man who saw me for less than a minute made an assumption and went with it. I was just another prisoner after all, so to the field squad I went. In Texas, the prison units are mostly self-sustaining, which isn't bad. The food is grown there, processed there, etc. And the field squad is basically the modern day version of the chain gang, but it also does provide food for all of the units. It's not a coveted position in prison, needless to say. It's 8 to 10 hours of nonstop hard work in the Texas sun or cold. We would go out unless it was 24 degrees or less. If you drive through the Gatesville area of Texas, you're likely to see them at work cutting grass along the highway. On this particular day, this is a meditation story after all, in case you've forgotten. On this particular day, we were planting potatoes. It was a misty sort of day, cool but not cold, and we're out in this gorgeous green field, completely surrounded by different prison units and satellite units, which are all in the same area. Surrounding us are guards on horseback with rifles just in case someone decides to run, which is incredibly imposing. I had reconnected with the meditation and yoga practice while I was incarcerated, and so I decided that I would use this as an opportunity to practice a moving meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh describes a practice of intentionality and mindfulness in doing everything with intention. Washing dishes, walking on the earth so that your feet feel like they are smiling, I believe is the quote from him. Doing everything with this intention, and this mindfulness. So I decide I'm going to do this while I'm hoeing potatoes. I work my way out, away from the other prisoners. There's just the smell of the rich, wet soil and the mist, and that green smell that Portlanders know too well, but is a luxury in Texas. And I start hoeing the potatoes, covering them with dirt. I have a large garden tool, which we called Aggies, which is an oversized garden hoe with the metal piece on the end weighing about 5 to 6 pounds. It's very, very large. And I'm moving through the rows. I start swinging, swing, swing, breathe in, swing, swing, breathe out, swing, swing, breathe in, swing, swing, breathe out. And all of a sudden, the world doesn't fall away, but it's more like I fall into it. Everything suddenly becomes more vivid. I'm not a prisoner. I'm not anything that I've done. I'm not my past, my present, my future. Just standing there in this field, smelling the earth, feeling the mist on my face, hearing my breath, feeling my heartbeat, feeling the motion of my muscles as I move. Swing, swing, breathe in. For a moment, my back and arms began to burn as usual. My mind wanders to the world outside, as it often does, but then something happens and I just let go. I'm not Max in the wolf suit trying so hard to convince others I'm a wild thing. I'm just there with the soil, the mist, the green just beyond the fields. Doesn't matter that I'm a prisoner, doesn't matter that I'm surrounded by other prisoners. The guards don't matter, and neither do their rifles, their tools of fear and oppression. I'm perfectly 100% in that moment. And I hung there for quite a while. I've never been able to repeat an experience quite like that. I've come close to it, but it's never been quite like that. But it was presence to life, to the world, despite where I was. I was there, whole, human. Like Max, my dinner was there on the table, all along, still hot, just waiting for me to get to it. Our stories are not the same, or at least I'd be surprised if they were. But that doesn't mean that we're not built in the same ways or that we don't long for the same things. And our lives here are finite. One blink and it's over. Our lives, whoever we are, wherever we come from, are brilliant but brief sparkles in an otherwise empty universe. There are physicists who are now proposing that that consciousness is the whole point. What a fascinating idea. that we are the point of existence. So what now does that mean for us? Of course, we have these systems to live in, this capitalist system that makes us exchange our time for money to survive, some better than others. We have systems of oppression that limit or enhance our chances based on things outside our control. We are not on an even playing field. You can see this by looking outside our windows or even within this room. But we do have today. We have this moment. Every day that we are alive is a miracle gifted to us. The odds of us even existing is something like 1 in, I've used this number before, 286, 1 in to the 286 trillionth power? No, I'm sorry, 1 with 2,685,000 zeros behind it. That's not even counting the odds of the earth existing or anything else. That's just us, our parents, meeting our grandparents, meeting our great-grandparents, meeting, et cetera, et cetera. Every day that we are alive is a miracle. I mentioned this before, and I mention it again now because I want us all to understand that we are all walking, talking, miraculous beings. The people you meet on the street are miracles. The person who made your latte is a miracle. Our houseless neighbors out back on 13th Street are miracles, and the surrounding areas are miracles. And yes, that jerk who cut you off in traffic is a miracle too. We are all miracles. We are a magical blip in this universe. Magic that, depending on your perspective, never should have or was always meant to be. Despite my tendencies toward dourness and being somewhat of an Eeyore, as I mentioned in a blog post a few weeks ago, I really believe the latter. And science, or some science at least, is behind me. So all of us miracles sitting around here, how do we live in a world that is somewhat less miraculous at times? I have to admit, this is one that I struggle with. It seems like I've had my heart broken open time and time again every time I see a little deeper into the ways in which we prioritize money and profits over human lives and dignity, and the distance we have to go to make amends to the harm done in the name of white supremacy and colonialism. It feels unbearable. And yes, it sounds like some ridiculous minister stereotype, but I weep at the state of the world, and I weep because I want us to wake up and realize that all of these traps and systems are the things that we've created, and we can just as easily unmake them. It's like that famous Ursula Le Guin quote. We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. So did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. The rest of what she said is not so often quoted. She says at the end of the same quote, resistance and change often begin in art, and very often in our art, the art of words. I thought long and hard about words I could say that would bring the rafters down, that would change in an instant hearts and minds, and maybe I have that gift and maybe I don't, but I do know that we do. It's just about consciously deciding what we're going to do with our lives. We watched those 2 videos earlier, one from Maurice Sendak with Terry Gross from NPR's Fresh Air, which I also happened to catch and left me weeping when it was first aired, and the other from Frank with the Jellybeans. In both of them, we are encouraged that time passes, and it passes quickly. We're left with precious little after the necessities of life are taken care of. So what do we do with them? The first part of my life, and admittedly, occasionally now, Nihilism sometimes seems to be the answer, to just throw our hands up and give up because it seems so big and so overwhelming. To admit that it's too big, too hard, too embedded in the way that we try to live, too embedded in the way that we live to try and change it. I escaped that pain every way I knew how and ultimately found myself deeper in it than I ever imagined possible. Our lives are too brief. They're shooting stars in the night, a passing flash, and then they're gone. What do we do with them? What will we do with them this year, this month, this week? What we do with this one single day? None of them are guaranteed, after all. Not even today. I'd like to hope that we would use them to actually do rather than talk. We UUs are great at talking sometimes. We love our committees. And while I think that they're important for people to get involved and stay active, they mean little if we're not moving forward. The connections that they bring have value. But what else? What do you dream of this year? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for this faith community? How do you make it happen? If this was your last year, your last month, or last day, and while I pray it's not, maybe it is, what would you do if you could touch the lives of those around you? Let's meditate on that for a moment. Now, we're going to begin the jelly bean ritual here. I've placed in some cups a single jelly bean. It's your choice to do with it, just as it is your choice to do with your days. You can use it as a seed for dreams and plant it. You can eat it mindfully if you're one for sweets. You can save it as a remembrance of this day. You can, anything in the world that you want to do with it, you can do with it. But let it represent joy. Let it represent leaning into wonder. Let it represent courage. Let it represent living fully, because we never know when our time is up. Thank you all. Now, if we could, Catherine and I are going to come down on either side of the table. If you'd like to grab a jelly bean, if you could process forward in 2 lines, we'd be happy to give you one if you'd like to have one to take. Friends, it's easy to be overwhelmed by all the things that this life throws at us. Let's tune into the things that are most important, to connection, to community, to love, to opening our doors to our neighbors, to building relationships here, to supporting one another. We believe in the power of community. We believe in the power of spirit and justice, which all of us embody. Help us move this year toward connection, toward hope, toward love, and toward wonder and joy. Go in peace. Blessed be. Amen. And enjoy those jelly beans.